You know what? It honestly, it really helps if I unmute the microphone. There we go. Now I'm live. I'm sitting there talking. I'm like, why the hell is nobody listening to me? It's because I had it muted. As I was saying, if you're in chat, go ahead and sound off so that I know you're there. Uh, this this conflicted night is going to be a little seat of the pants type of thing. So, some things happened that kind of threw a monkey wrench in it. Got some people. Hey, Tiger 454, Joseph G. I saw Terminator was in here earlier. Simpler Times Homestead. Yeah, all good now. It happens. You know what? I'm an amateur. I'm not a professional at this, and so these things happens from time to time. Uh, some of the people that I had hoped would be here can't make it for various reasons, and then there was an impromptu live scheduled by another prepper channel that is drawing a lot of people, and so they're there. So we've got two things going on, and hey, puppery. But anyway, first off, let me say, if you're first time coming to the channel when we do a conflicted night and you signed up for the homesteading stuff, this is part of our preparedness series that we do, the full spectrum preparedness, which is part of our homesteading plan. And what conflicted is it's a card game that you are given moral and ethical situations, and you answer them to the best, as honestly as you can, and people discuss it and talk about the different answers and stuff. And the rules of the game, there's actually rules on who quote unquote wins the game, and I don't think I've ever played the game that way. We've always just done it in a round robin setting, um, and let people go, and then we discuss the answers. I have pinned the StreamYard link at the top of the comments. Go to live chat first of all. Go to live chat, and then you can click on the link. It'll bring you into the studio and into the waiting room, and then I'll make sure you are who you say you are, and then we'll get you up here if you want to partake. If you want to come up here and be on the panel and talk to me directly. If we don't get anybody up here, I can read the cards. We'll read the cards for a little bit and just go through some of them and let people answer in chat. That's fine with me. Honestly, I'm not going to take this any longer than 2 hours, and we could go as little as 30 minutes. It just depends on what kind of activity we've got and how many people are in the panel. Yeah, Hacks, we're doing the conflicted tonight. If you want to jump up, the link is up pinned up there at the top of the live chat. Hey, Homestead Oz, how you guys doing? Midday and busy, just sending out your love. Well, thanks for stopping by. We'll have to get you guys up on this panel sometime. We'll have to schedule a game sometime whenever you guys are available, so we can get a perspective from down under and see what you guys think about it. Tonight we are going to be using. Let's see if you can see that. Conflicted Deck 2 Survival Scenarios. What this is, there's no really, some of them are straight survival scenarios, and other ones are post-apocalyptic scenarios. So the questions that come up could vary very greatly, be honest with you. It's a pretty good deck. And just to give you an example, let me get a short one first. Let's see here. There's a short one. Get my glasses on. Okay. So here's an example of the questions. When forming a survival group, what structure of organization is best? Having one leader with people under that person, or various levels, or at various levels, or having the entire group share leadership responsibilities, and why? Okay. This is really weird that I pulled this exact card out, and I didn't mean to. This is part of the conversation they're having over on that other channel. It's prepping outside the box, prepping outside the box, POTB. I can always remember POTB, I can't remember the full thing. And we got Mr. Hacks says he's in the stream. He's coming up. So So it's kind of weird that that came up, and that's a really good question. You know, if let's hear about it in chat. If you're forming a group, would you rather have one leader at the top with subordinates, or would you rather have a group by committee, so to speak? Let's see here. I think Hax is having some problems getting on. He's coming up kind of slow. If anybody, like I said, if anybody wants to come up, feel free to jump on. I kind of figured this was going to happen after the two people I had lined up kind of backed out on me. But that's just part and parcel to doing this. But the conflicted game, so we use it at Midwest Preparedness Festival. We have the campfire talks every night after the sun goes down, and we try to. Are you on here, Hax?
Yeah, somewhere.
I don't see any video, brother.
Well, I don't know what's going on.
Did you enable your camera whenever you came into the studio?
Yeah, it was working. Let me go back to the settings.
There you go. Now we can see your handsome mug. Look at that mug.
There we go.
That's a face only a Mrs.
Tripod. Yep.
Joseph G said number 3 is the answer to the first question.
I am.
Thanks for coming up. Simpler Times Homestead. Well, you know what? This is being. I don't see any video, brother. Oh.
Well, I don't know what's going on.
Somebody needs to turn the volume off because we're getting feedback loop. Simpler Times Homestead says, I'd rather have a group by committee. It would be too easy for one person to fall into the role of dictator or at least be perceived as one. You know, I'm kind of torn on this, on that answer, Simpler Times. You know, one of the things about group dynamics is in order to get things done, there's got to be some sort of leader for the task, not necessarily the group, but for the task. The answer, I know where you're going with this because you do tend to have people, they start gravitating towards the person and not the group. So yes, there is the definite possibility of somebody deciding to make a dictatorship, to use the Walking Dead as an example. What do you think? What do you think of that answer, Hax?
Oh, I'm still trying to get set up.
Did you hear the first question?
No, let me hear it again.
You're forming a survival group. What structure of organization is best? One with the leader at the top and subordinates, or one where the entire group shares in the leadership and responsibilities? Simpler Times hit it. He hit it on the head, though. He hit it on the head. Is you have to have something in place to ensure that there's nobody becomes a dictator or gains,
or a Negan.
A Negan, exactly.
Yeah, I think people with their certain skill sets, if everybody works together, it'll kind of even out and kind of balance the tables there. Everybody will kind of be equal.
So Potpourri for Life says you could have a main leader, yet eldership, so that the main leader is kept accountable to all. Okay, that's a fantastic answer, because it speaks to the dynamic of voluntary governorship, where the group agrees to let this person lead, which I think is a good combination of what Simpler Times was saying, and having a leader is you maintain your individual sovereignty, but you agree to follow whoever's in charge, you know, and who that is, that can be selected any number of ways, right? I mean, Hax, what do you think are some ways that a leader could be chosen, whether it's a group leader or somebody who's like in charge of a certain aspect of the group dynamics.
They don't show an eagerness to lead, for one thing, and then followed up by they don't really delegate. They try and do everything on their own. So they're putting themselves equal with everybody else. Mm-hmm. And once they figure out, here, you need to do this, as a group tell him that, anybody can rise to be a leader. The ones that are eager to do it don't know anything, and they'll screw it up.
Scannies Girl just popped in from Louisiana. Cul-de-sacs, I like that answer. I can see pros and cons to each. I can see a scenario forming, and the second scenario of alliances being formed and it getting out of hand. I was in a business partnership once where that happened. Mm-hmm. Absolutely. I think that Tag and I were talking about this weekend, and he was talking about our group specifically. And so we do not have a common location. We all own our own property. Mm-hmm. And what that's done for our group is it gives us sovereignty, because if I don't like what's going on, I can leave. I can go home. If you're in a group where you're cohabitating with people, yeah, the leadership dynamics and everything changes dramatically at that point. You know, so I think that maintaining your sovereignty is key to that making sure that cliques don't form and things don't get out of control. You know, and the other part is you have to put the well-being of the group ahead of yourself, plain and simple. Yeah. You know, Joseph G said, here, I got to remember, I can show these things. There can be committees, but a leader has the big picture mission in mind. Yeah. And really the way it happens in most of the tribal world is the various clans send a representative up, and they select a leader among those representatives, and that's the leader of the overall clan. You know, Simpler Times agrees with you. Mm-hmm. The reluctant leader is the best. Yep. Well, here, let me show you cul-de-sac. You know what? I wish I could take credit for it, but it's something that Tag took away from the Next Step conference he was at last week. It's one of the things we talked about when we were out working on that pad and tearing down our old cabin. So, all right. Does anybody get anything else they want to add on this subject? If not, let's pick a card at random. Hey, Milkmaid. There's a spot open. The address is pinned up at the top. We just started. Okay, here we go. This is one of those ones that is a straight prepper thing. Is ambushing and equal force fighting against you an intelligent move, or does it make you less an honorable adversary? Hacks? I wish Heathen or Heathen was here, or Natural, whatever. I don't remember his name. You know what I'm talking about, though. I wish he was here, because he would definitely have an answer for this. Naughty Heathen. That's it. Oh, I feel bad because I forgot his name.
Maybe you need to reach out more.
Yeah.
Say that question again. It sounds like a two-part.
Is ambushing and equal force fighting against you an intelligent move, or does that make you a less than honorable adversary? Basically, the question is ambushing somebody a good thing or a bad thing?
Ambushing, in my opinion, that follows along with my my style of combat, which is sniper. And you're sitting in a hide and you take them out and they never see it coming. That's an ambush.
Yeah.
And I think it's honorable, because by the time you get to that point where you put somebody on that person, they've proven that they need to be eliminated.
Yeah.
And I still would fight with, I'm about ready to wipe these guys out and they don't even see it coming.
So Milkmaid says, not sure about the moral part, but I just keep thinking about attrition.
Yeah.
Well, and okay, so before I give my thoughts on it, does anybody else have anything in chat they want to add to that? I know it's kind of a weird thing. Scanes agrees with Hacks. So we got two people. Okay, I'm gonna.
Yeah, you know me, ghillie suits and hides, and
I'm gonna talk specifically to what Milkmaid said. Milkmaid's thing about the moral part. If you have reached the point where you feel it's necessary to ambush somebody because they are coming against you, they're fighting against you, or whatever, if you feel that is something that you should do, then morally you're right. Because if you're fighting, you're not fighting for a draw at that point. Okay. I mean, if you've gotten to the point where you decided that an armed conflict is what needs to take place, it's not about honor. Well, I mean, after the fact, yes, there are things you need to worry about. All right, morally, but the actual act of ambushing an enemy, whether they're equal, bigger, smaller, whatever, honor has nothing to do with it. It's about practicality. All right, it's either life or death. And if you're gonna, you know what, the honorable thing for me to do is survive and take care of my family and my group. That's the honorable thing for me to do. Right. And morally, you do what you have to do, then you worry about the in this case, I'm going to say in this case, not in every case. So don't take this as a blanket statement. You do what you got to do to ensure the safety of your group. All right. In this case. Now, this good thing about conflicted, I'm telling you what, I guarantee you a card's going to come up that's going to make me contradict myself.
What deck are you using, Garen?
Deck 2, the survival scenarios.
I'm gonna go get mine. That way I can read the question.
Okay. Simpler times. If they are a legitimate enemy, you are saving the lives of your own people by doing that. Amen. That's a fantastic point there, simpler times. And Joseph G. The enemy are the bad guys. And yes and no. Yes and no. You're gonna find out the more you play conflicted, you're gonna find out that there are different flavors of what bad guys are. Yes, the caveats. The caveats are the ones that will make you stay up at night, give you PTSD, and make you second guess yourself. So let's wait for Hacks to get back with his deck so he can read the cards. In fact, I may just have him do some cards too, so that I don't have to keep taking my glasses on and off. They make the writing on these. Look at this. Look at all that writing on that card. I have a hard time seeing that before I needed glasses. Now I need glasses. All right, you know what? Let's not wait for Hacks. I don't want to. Let's take this off there. Okay, let's see if we can do this one. Okay, pay attention. A large gang of traveling looters captured you and your family from your retreat. So you've been captured by marauders. They drove 150 miles from your location and sold you and your family at a trading post. A good Samaritan paid the price for you and set you all free. However, he has no desire to help you any further. So you're 150 miles away from home, and you've been freed from bondage by a good Samaritan. It's time to start over from nothing in a post-apocalyptic world. How do you go about securing the short-term and the long-term survival of your family? So basically everything that you've had is taken away from you. You're in, yep, that's the one. You're in a brand new place that's unfamiliar, and you've got no assets. No assets whatsoever. So what did you hear what I was saying?
No, I just got back up here.
Okay. But chat, go ahead and chime in. I'll repeat it for hacks. You've been captured by marauders and taken 150 miles away and sold into slavery. And somebody buys you out of slavery so that you're not a slave anymore, but doesn't want to help you do anything else. So you're in a new place that's unfamiliar with no assets whatsoever.
Wow.
So
you just start over.
Yeah. Well, how do you secure it? Short term and long term. Long term. You know what, potpourri? It's the apocalypse. You kind of take the good stuff when and where you can get it, right? I don't know if Good Samaritan would be the right descriptor either, but you know, what did Milkmaid said? Shelter, water, food, then figure it out. Yes, the immediate three that you need to survive. But how? Okay, Milkmaid, how would you go about doing that? How would you secure your food, water, and shelter? Are you willing to steal it? Are you willing to barter it for? Are you willing to barter it for some skill that you have? And what about, you know? And I hate to say this is kind of in not poor taste, but it's something you need to think about. But what about the oldest profession in the world? I mean, that's one of the things that Selko talks about when he writes about being in Sarajevo during the siege during the Yugoslavian war, is that these women who would never have thought about it before actually turned to that in order to keep their families fed and sheltered. You know, so these type of things, as distasteful as they may be, these are no, you don't have to click. You just have to be able to give an answer in 144 characters or less. Okay, somebody said cul-de-sac said send members out to scout water and shelter. Absolutely. Get those first two out of the way. Let's see here. Joseph G says time to start making Stone Age tools and get to work. Well, and you know what? That's a technically viable answer, but the thing is, you have to have the skills. Oh, there she is.
Such a punk. I can't stay long, but I thought that was a good question.
You know, it really is. So what are you going to, how are you going to secure the food, water, and shelter for your family?
Honestly, that's so situational, you know. Where am I? What's the climate like? You know, all of that. But I probably
just think some place 150 miles away from where you are.
So like Tennessee.
Yeah. Or Hanging Rock.
Honestly, I mean, if I'm at a trading post and I just got released, right? Then I'm probably in a more populated area. And from that point, I mean, man, it's so situational though, you know, like you'd have to find shelter first, which I used to think was not supposed to be first, but actually it's quite important, you know. And then water, obviously you can go without food for a while, but I'd probably be, depending on the feel of the area, I would be seeing if I could work with people. And you were talking about that oldest profession, and that actually came up in a conversation one time. I was like, I don't know if I could ever be that person, you know, because I mean, but you look at people and they do that for their children, you know. I'm like, man,
you do what you have to do to survive and keep your family safe.
Yeah, but where do you draw the line, you know?
That's an individual question, and I think you make a great point about, you know, you're at a training post, so there's going to be more people around, and you know, the the prepping community has this tendency to think that once something bad happens, that it's going to be Mad Max time and everybody's going to be ruthless and all this stuff. And history doesn't show that, that's human nature is not like that. Most people tend to want to help people in need. I mean, not to the point where they're putting themselves, not to the point where they're putting themselves in danger, but if you can show that you could be an asset, you got a really good chance of securing those three things of what you said, at least in the short term.
Well, you're going to be more likely to survive if you are an asset versus, going all crazy on people,
Exactly.
And that's why, like, I really think skills and knowledge is something that you really should be like packing away versus just stuff, because I mean that you can carry with you and it weighs nothing,
Absolutely. Hex, what do you think about the question?
Well, she touched on something about skills, and I think I'm going to start doing some videos on some of my bushcraft that I've learned over the years. Not a lot of people know how to just get out in the woods with a knife and actually do something. But yeah, shelter, a debris shelter would be good to start off with. And then the source of water, and you just take it from there. Once you get your morale right, you're able to stay dry, because that will make a miserable time. And you stay hydrated, you can conquer the world pretty much.
So Lucky Dame says it's easy to say do the world's oldest profession to help your kids, but there's a tremendous amount of danger involved in that. What good are your kids if you get hurt or worse in the process? Absolutely. And
exactly.
And I'm going to say this. It's seriously, it's not something that guys have to think about very much. It's just, it honestly is not something that we have to think about. And to sit here and pretend that I'm going to be all moral about it. I mean, obviously I think you figure out what I think about it, but
right.
Who am I in that situation?
Well, I think desperation drives a lot of people to do that. And the key is to not ever get to that desperate level, male or female,
Yep. Absolutely.
Because it's not just women who, I mean,
well,
not to get gross, but like,
well, I know the flip side of that. I know the forcible side of it, but the doing it of your own volition, it's really
volition.
not volition. Yeah.
Volition.
Yeah. It's not something that guys have to really seriously think about, because honestly, a lot of guys don't have enough to offer.
Well, and that's kind of the point with women too, is that a lot of people, especially historically, women haven't really been quote unquote valuable, except for in certain spheres. And in wartime or in times of need, that is their one thing that they can always sell, and I mean, men take advantage of that as well.
So,
but
Cul-de-sac says that she is going to be that person. I also believe my faith in praying for wisdom would bring answers. God is faithful. Uh-oh, bug-out's here. Get ready. Things are going to go off the chain.
Oh no, really?
Yeah. Does that mean you're leaving?
Probably.
I got the link to the StreamYard's posted, pinned up above if you want to jump up here. We got Darren from Actual Homesteader, and then your good friend Milkmaid. Okay, does anybody in chat have anything else to add to that question? Kind of went off in a weird direction, but it's one of those things. It's kind of hard to help. Okay, this is an easy one. Well, it's not easy. It's short. Describe how you would approach other survival groups after the collapse. Darren, you want to go ahead and start?
Oh, can you hear me?
Yeah, we can hear you. You're frozen
Looks
up.
like my video geeked out on me. Man, I can't concentrate on it. What was that question again?
How would you
There we go.
approach other survival groups after the collapse?
Well, you kind of approach if it's like a compound or even a campsite. You roll in there like without tactical gear on that you're not going to take them out, and you offer the skills that you know. It's like, test me. I can do this, and this, and if they put you to the test, see that you know what you're talking about, and how can I help, or we need help. Will you guys help us? But you got to go in there unassuming, or like you're not on the offensive.
Okay.
Yeah.
But you always got one. You always got one in your lower back just in case. But
Bug out. What's your take on that? How would you approach other groups?
Well, it all depends. I mean, I would try to get as much data as I could. Kind of like, I try to recon the situation a little bit. If I think they would be rational, I would probably send my weakest person, to not be a threat. And then, like, for example, let's say you send a 13-year-old boy over there to give a message. If they capture that kid, then it's time to smoke the whole village, because who the hell would do that, right?
Okay.
And
Unique.
and they know that kid isn't gonna have what it takes to be a threat to them. So you're kind of giving them a courtesy a little bit, Where they say, hey, we got a group over here. We see you're doing the same thing. Maybe we can work something out. Maybe we could work together. Maybe we could trade. Maybe, I would be more willing to not take a defensive posture to something like that if it came to me than if 10 bikers showed up with a bunch of machine guns. Like, I might not even talk to them. I might just start shooting. You know what I mean?
Mm-hmm. What about you, Milkmaid?
Well, see, this is the advantage of going last, because I get to use everybody else's ideas. Actually, what I was going to say is I would probably watch for a while and see what kind of people they are, observe. And then from that point, depending on the caliber of the people or kind of how they conduct themselves, I never thought of sending a kid, but like kind of reaching out in some way in a trade sense or something. But I mean, the hard thing about all of this is it's so situational, depending on the individuals,
Anytime we're talking about questions like this, it's always going to be situational.
Yeah.
You just have to take what the card says. I think the combination of what Darren was saying, well, actually what all three of you were saying is I think, to boil it down, cautiously, but with the plan to kill everybody if you have to. Or not.
Yeah, another thing.
Not kill everybody, defend yourself.
Yeah, I know what you mean. But another thing is a lot of these younger people that are in their developmental years, they're going to adjust to a situation like this way better than a lot of adults that are set in their patterns. And back in my day, our day, anybody sitting here right now, back in my day just doesn't apply once we get to an environment like that. But a kid, their reality is malleable, and like they might be the perfect candidate for something like that. That was why I said a kid. I didn't mean just like throw kids into like gas chambers or something. I was thinking behind that.
Well, and
no, but you're right.
That raises a problem though, because you got an entire generation of people that are raised on prepper fiction, where the kid is always sent in as the spy or the way to get into the gate. So you may have people that with pre-prejudice like, oh, they're sending a kid and they're trying to trap us. Wasp asked the question: do you approach with your hands up or waving? Do you approach in a submissive way, or you go friendly and going, hey, here I am, how you guys doing?
Well, I think if you give them the respect of going in at the disadvantage, and that's the thing that the person approaching the group has to do. They don't have to necessarily be disarmed or completely vulnerable, but at the same time, they don't have a group large enough that they could challenge where the group that they're arriving to. So no, I honestly would think don't even bother with the hands up and stuff. If they have an outside perimeter, if they have security like you do, hopefully, they're already going to know that you're there before you get to where you even have a chance to speak to somebody. I don't think you'd have to worry about that. If they're going to know that there's 3 people or 2 people, they're going to know what you have and all that other stuff. And it's like, if they want to drop you at any point along the way, that's the risk. Approaching the group, period, is going to be a risk. Do you even make it to the gate is the question, Well,
okay, Darren, I'm gonna throw a curveball at you. What if you're out doing something out away from your compound and you just happen to run into a group? How do you approach them then? With everything that's been said in mind, how do you approach them at that point? Nothing's bad happened. Nothing bad has happened. It's just they're another group that's out there doing the same thing you're doing.
I think as you dealt with the public and people, you can kind of pick the leader, the bully, the big guy in the group. And I was one of them dingbats in school that always got bullied, and I could pick the big guy out. And if I could handle him, everybody else was like, you just break that group up. So I'd go into it looking for the biggest dude, or the kind of the leader. And if they pull any crap, that's who I'd be taking first. It's like, I ain't got enough rounds for all of you, but I'm getting this guy first.
What about you? What about you, Milkmaid?
I mean, I'm not exactly a confrontational person, so I probably wouldn't take that tact. But what I would want to do is kind of, I guess, view how they work and see if there's a way to work with them. If they even, like, because Lucky brought up a really good point, maybe they don't even want to do anything with us.
Right.
That was my first thought.
And from that point, just see if they are even interested. But if I have my own place, I'm probably going to be sticking more towards that. And the only reason that I would work with other groups is if there's a mutual benefit there. You know what I mean?
Yep. That's exactly what I was thinking, because the non-confrontational and let them know that you've got shared goals in mind. You both groups survive by working together versus being adversarial.
Well, the first thing to that would be, oh, wow, I didn't know this group was here. That's what it sounds like, right? That's the situation.
Yeah. If you're meeting them. Yep.
So you're out, you're looking for deer or something, how you're looking for, you're going to that fishing hole that you always hit every now and again, and then you bump into a group of people. Do you go across where they're established, or they're out wandering around too? Is my next question.
Yeah.
Well, I'm thinking, what the first thing that popped into my mind when I read that card was the scene out of the movie Apocalypto, where the tribesmen are out hunting and they bump into that other group that was moving through their area. So that's kind of, that's the scenario that I envisioned with that question.
Oh, okay. Yeah. That's kind of what I was thinking too. And in that respect, I think kind of like, sort of doing a parlay and saying, hey, wow, I didn't know we had people out here. You probe them with questions, but they're going to probe you with questions. And then to do the courtesy of saying, well, this here that we're on now is outside of our established area. So if we ever ran into you out here, we don't have a problem, like right off the rip. Like this is no man's land as far as we're concerned. Now, is this too close to you? Would be my next question. Like, am I stepping on your toes right now? And then if they say no, then it's like, okay, well then, maybe we can establish a meeting place here. Maybe we can actually start doing some trades and stuff where I don't need to know where you're at and you don't need to know where I'm at, but we could start, so if we got people making meat and they got people making mayonnaise, like maybe we can make something happen,
Meat and mayonnaise.
Essentials. All you need at that point is white bread.
Right.
Okay, so here's a follow-up question. This isn't on a card, but this makes me want to ask. Is a situation like this something that you would prepare for before the collapse, any collapse or anything happened? As would you with your group walk through, okay, if something happens and we run into another group, then we don't know these guys. How are we going to handle it? Is that something that you think you should plan for ahead of time and at the very least, go through a paper exercise on it? If not, role play it out, maybe.
Yeah, but the timeline, and I think one of the best timelines was established by William Cooper, where, the first 3 months are going to be a completely different set of rules than any time after that.
Mm-hmm.
If during the desperation phase, like that first month, on the timer, you're not going to want to run into anybody at all. In fact, if you're outside wandering around in that first month, you're doing something wrong, because that's when all the crazy people are going to be weeding themselves out. But if it's 6 months later and you start meeting people, your curiosity might build up because they obviously had what it took to survive. That could be a good thing or a bad thing, but you got to figure that out. You sort of have to ascertain that by either, reconnaissance, maybe they're just direct about it. If they see you and they start and someone's bringing out the knife and fork and sharpening it, you're like, oh man, this is not good.
They start licking their lips and looking at you like some pork chop.
No long pork barbecues going on here, please.
And that's back to the other thing, which people bring this up quite a bit, but it really does stand. You don't want to be 6 months out and be the guy that has a couple pounds to lose either, because the second they see that you're well fed, they're going to see you as a mark. They're going to want what you got wherever you got it.
Mm-hmm.
So Custom Builder, welcome aboard, Custom Builder. Thanks for coming here. This is one of our conflicted nights. He says, don't approach, be seen at a good distance. Let them approach you with your Overwatch lateral flank positions and Overwatch and all that stuff. Basically what he's saying is take a good tactical stance and let them approach you.
Mm-hmm.
Which in that case, it's you're standing there waving at them, tell them to come on over instead of approaching them. Okay, you guys.
Yeah.
Good doctor.
Anybody else have anything to add to that? If not, we'll go to the next question. Okay, this is an economic collapse question. The economic collapse has happened. The infrastructure is gone and people are getting hungry. Your neighbors are starving and starting to scavenge, looking for food to feed their families. You are prepared and have what your family needs. How would you keep your stores safe while you consume them and avoid becoming a target? Wow, I think Bug Out should start this one because he kind of hit on that to begin with.
Well, hang on. I didn't know you were reading the card. I thought you were like reading the news or something.
Well, they haven't started scavenging around here. Are they scavenging up where you are, Hacks?
No, I scavenge all the time though.
We're scavengers. We got to worry about our coons and possums right now. Thank God.
Yeah.
Well, there was one thing I heard somebody say. It's not my own idea, but I thought it was kind of nifty. To wear clothes that are a couple sizes too big when you leave and go anywhere where you might run into somebody, so you don't appear to be as well fed as you are.
I know who it was. It was Ghost. He's in chat too.
Yeah, Ghost is in
chat. There you go. Yeah.
And actually, I'm going to still Ghost Thunder because that's actually something that Rawls talked about back around the 2000 time frame.
Oh yeah.
Yeah, Wesley Rawls talked about that. But it's a good, no matter where it came from, it's a fantastic point. What about you?
Rawls is a genius, man, but definitely a rich guy prepper.
Yeah,
where it's kind of hard to meet his criteria, but he does have really good ideas. I mean, I wish I was on his level, to be honest.
Well, you got to get to step one.
Right. Step one, have $1 million. But but yeah, the one thing right now that I'm kind of aiming at, but I'm in South Florida. There's a lot of people down here. But my first goal is to not have to leave. Anytime that you leave, Apocalypse Now, don't get off the boat. That's my plan for at least the first 90 days.
Yep. What about you, Milkmaid? How do you go about protecting your stash?
This is actually something that we've considered a lot, and part of the reason why we probably are going to be moving, because we know some people who are prepared around us, but most people aren't, right?
Mhm.
And I've got a farm, I've got livestock. People know I garden, that kind of thing. So that's a huge concern of mine. And in order to keep that going, I don't have a very good plan unless I have a whole bunch of people that can work as basically guards to a certain extent. Now you can share your, like, for example, I have cattle. The guy across from me has a bunch of land and a really good field. Now I could say, okay, well, my milk cow, she goes here and she grazes, and I milk her, and then y'all get like a half gallon of milk a day, right? So there can be a mutual benefit with the people around you, but I'm just thinking from my personal perspective,
Mm-hmm. Well, that's what we want. Well, I
but
think
that's not going to be
point.
enough, like.
Well, the physical security is your concern, is what you're saying.
Well, yeah, because I mean, somebody can go and they can kill my cow, and then they, take a hindquarter and the rest of it rots, and that cow can't breed anymore. I'm thinking like
there's
long
a neighbor.
term.
There's a neighbor or two that might benefit from an arrangement, but there's also a neighbor or two that doesn't, and that's kind of like
Right.
already creating a mom likes you best situation,
Mm-hmm.
Well, and I think Milkmaid, what you're talking to is probably the best defense you have. Well, you know what? Before I say my part, Darren, what do you think about the question? How would you protect yourself? What would you do?
That would be where your growing raw vegetables come into play. Any freeze-dried foods that you've got stashed back. Avoiding the fires and the cooking smells as much as you could.
Yeah, that too.
I know with the freeze-dried stuff, you can just throw it in water, let it absorb for 30 minutes, and eat it that way without even cooking it. But like I said, if you're growing a garden, jungle gardens, or as Billy calls it, guerrilla gardens, you just run around and forage and eating all day long, and nobody knows about it. But yeah, that's my way. I'd start off at least the first 90 days or 3 months.
Well, I'm definitely going to have a lockdown, though. I mean, there's going to be people extending themselves beyond where they probably know that they shouldn't be. Everyone's going to be moving on everybody down here because there's just not enough space for all these people. I'm going to have to look meaner than them and act meaner than them at first, Yeah.
Well, and you know what? You and Milkmaid and Darren, all three of you kind of went into what I was going to say. I think the key here, and it's with a lot of these questions, you got to do the work on the front end. So the best way to secure your food after something happens is to build a community before it happens, so that you've got like-minded people around you, where you're able to lock down, like you said, dugout, or you're able to come up with a mutual agreement with somebody, or gardening. The after the fact, you're worried about nuts and bolts at that point, and it's like you said, bug out. You just got to be mean and nastier than the person that wants to steal your stuff. At least that's what I'm saying.
And you got
Oh, go ahead.
I was going to say, and you got to put your meaner, nastier people on the outer ring of the security, because unfortunately, I'm a sucker, man. Like, I will at times be more compassionate than probably would be wise,
You'll let that 13-year-old in through the gate.
I know. I struggle with that, though, because I don't know if I would, but it's a thought that crosses my mind. It's like, how do I just need to put the guys that can make those hard calls in the front, you know?
Yeah, that's a good point. Not everybody's going to make that decision the same way. Let's see. Let's do one more thing out of chat. Potpourri says, "Have to learn how to be mean and nasty, so my husband will have to stand in front of me." Well, he'll soak up any unfriendly arguments that may come your way. Okay, you guys ready for the next one?
Well, hang on real quick on
Okay.
that though.
Okay.
Kind of the punchline there is people are afraid to be mean and nasty, but everyone will be mean and nasty after they get taken advantage of once or twice. So are you going to wait the once or twice and lose a couple times, or are you just going to cut it to the chase and just tighten your belt, you grit your teeth, whatever you got to do, and just jump into it and say, this is how life is now? You might not be ready for that, but I think after you see a few personalities kind of melt down on you, and you start seeing the real people and not the facades that they carry around, like they'll come at you with a sales pitch like a snake oil salesman, and then when they realize that the plan isn't working, they'll become someone else rapidly. And after you see that a couple times, you won't have a problem with it either. It's just we're not there yet. We're in this society that we're in today. What do they say? Like 80% of our communication is redundant. We just, most of the stuff that we say to each other is stuff that the other person already knows. We're confirming or affirming other people's ideas. We're just making each other feel good. That's what most of our communication is today. Communication is going to change. It's going to have a paradigm shift when after a catastrophic event. It's going to be like, what can you do for me? Nothing. Get out of here. That's going to be the communication right there. Well, yeah, I can do something for you, but if you can't do something for me, then you have no reason to be here. There might be somebody that does show up that can do something for you. Like, I can make your life better in this way, but here's what I need. I need some ivermectin and you have food. Let's, or whatever, like there can be some deals made at that gate too, not just people getting told to screw off and kick rocks, but you got to be able to have somebody there that can figure out if there's something to it or not just put some bully out there that just beats everyone up that walks in the door.
Yeah.
You say that like somebody that's had a practical real world experience with that at some level.
Yeah, right. You never know what you're going to get.
Okay, Darren, you get to go first this time.
All right.
Okay. A local law enforcement officer wants to join your group after the collapse. He is infamous in your community for serving his own kind of justice, and he is very unlikely to be unlikable and untrustworthy. He threatens to label your group as a terrorist cell and expose you and your group if he is denied admission. So this is before the fact. This is before anything happens, before a fall. By the way it's worded. Would you allow him to join your group knowing he will try to take it over, or would you take a chance with his threat? How would you handle his demand? So we're still under the rule of law. There's not marauders out there. You're not starving to death. He just wants to join your group.
Wait, now, hairier than today or today?
Well, today. Let's just say today. What's going on?
Okay, all right.
I don't see. I honestly, things have gotten worse, but they're not nearly as bad as what they could be.
Yeah.
And so I can still wake up in the morning and go to work and feel semi-secure about my house being here when I get back. You know what I mean?
So if you read this question 5 years ago, you'd be talking about right now.
Yeah, basically.
Yeah. Okay. We'll go with today.
Okay. Okay, Darren, what do you think? How would you handle his demand?
I already know that guy. I've known him for several years, and I'm going to invite him in. I'm going to keep him close. But when shit goes sideways, he's not going to give anybody any harm. And it's just that that mentality. I'm sorry. It just. But I'm going to keep him where I can keep an eye on him. He won't sneak up on me.
I think Lucky Dame is agreeing with you there.
Yeah.
And before we go any further,
I won't go as far as in the face, but you know, I'm gonna know where he's at, and you know, first I'm gonna give him the benefit of the doubt like everybody else, but I know his character.
Okay,
And
before we get any further into this question, this is for YouTube's sake. We are not advocating violence. These are all hypothetical questions, and they're meant to invoke moral and ethical questions, and we are answering these moral and ethical questions. So Susan, the YouTube moderator that's watching this at this time, don't think we're advocating violence. Okay, Milkmaid, the floor is yours.
Well, my first instinct would be to cut him out completely, like just ignore him. But there is a thing with circles of trust, right? Where you could kind of sort of pretend he was part of it, but not really. But that kind of person is a bad news bear. I mean, you don't want that type of person with you, because they will, if they're already threatening blackmail kind of stuff, that's not a person I really want to deal with necessarily. I mean, not if he's looking out for number one. He wouldn't be an asset to the group, is what I would think.
Right. What about you, Bug Out?
Oh, I go, man, that's great. When can I come by to see your stuff? And when he says, what stuff? And I go, man, my hands are tied. If you don't have the supplies, you can't get in. And he's like, no, but I'm going to expose you. And then you say, well, if you come in here and you don't have the supplies, they're already going to know that something's up. And then you establish him as a loot drop and a future resource later to exploit when the time comes, if you decide you need to cash in on that. I would see if he was for real or not. And if he's not for real, I would say, dude, it's not up to me. So blackmailing me isn't going to do anything. We harder in our group where you're required to have these things. And if you don't have it, they're going to see right through you. So, you force him to prep. And then when the time comes and you need that mean guy at the gate for a while, you can use him, but you can harvest him or kind of let him go, sort of like was mentioned before. You can fire him at any time, maybe even literally, but but you could probably cash in on him in the rough period in the beginning. If it's a sudden collapse, he might actually be an asset for a while, and he's going to bring his stuff, but without that stuff, it's like, hey man, you can't fake your way into this, because it's all about having stuff, And I've met people in real life that have tried to friend their way into being a prepper, and it's like, man, you can't friend your way into having your own stuff. You just can't. It can't be done. You can't friend your way into not having skills either. I mean, there's a lot of people out there that have stuff that's worth way more than mine, and they don't have a damn idea what to do with it. And it's like, man, you're still going to be a bench warmer until you know what you're doing, until you have skills and stuff. This is what we're all going for right now. You know what I mean? And some guy who's extorts people and is basically a miscreant, people are going to see right through him, and he's going to know people are going to see through him, because that's how he gets through life. He finds a weak spot and tries to exploit it. But you're like, man, there's no faking this. Like, this part you got to have. And now you forced him to bring preps to your side of the house, So if somebody takes it sideways when he tells them to kick rocks at the gate and they pop him, it's like they just did you a favor pretty much, right? In Minecraft.
Yep. Huh. So Yankee Watchdog says, you say no thanks, and I better not see you after the fall. Well, what happens at that point if he decides he flat out tells you, I'm going to SWAT you. I'm going to call the FBI and let them know that you're a terrorist cell and you've got all these guns and do all this stuff, and you end up getting the Minnesota militia treatment.
And this is coming, by the way. This is not fictional. Like, these are dire, grim predictions that you're making here, but this kind of stuff is going to start happening, because there's going to be people trying to play catch up when they realize exactly the pickle that we're in, and they're going to try to force their way in. This is going to happen to somebody probably listening to this right now. It might not be you, might not be me, but somebody is going to get pinched like this. Guarantee it.
Yep.
I think so.
Absolutely. Okay, you guys ready for the next one? I picked 3 cards in a row that look like they were written in like 0.5 font. And even with my glasses on, I couldn't read them. Okay, here's another. Do what?
Did you see my comment earlier?
About?
Are you admitting that you're getting old?
I told you guys earlier. It's weird being the same age.
Can't
as
see where the damn either.
Sorry, I couldn't resist. Go ahead. Sorry.
It is. It's weird being the same age as old people, man. I just am not used to it. This is another economic collapse question. And Milkmaid, you get to go first. The banking system in your country has collapsed. You have some supplies, but your bank account cannot be accessed anymore. There are, however, people who owe you money, and it dawns on you that either you need to collect it in cash or goods or risk never being paid again. How would you go about collecting debts after the collapse?
Well, ideally, I would not have anybody in debt to me. So preemptively, I'd probably not want to get into that because they're going to be in the same ball of wax that everybody else is, right?
Yeah.
So, I mean, I could reach out and say, hey, pay up, I need this for whatever, and, take goods and services or whatever to get that. But honestly, that's kind of a tricky question because.
Do you strong arm them? Do you try
it really
guilting
depends.
them?
I'm not the strong arm, he is, but I would ask politely, and then if I really needed it, I would get it, but I would almost walk away from it.
Okay. What about you, Bug Out?
You're never going to see it. They're not going to have it. If it's the, I'd let's say 8 times out of 10. I don't want to say 9 times out of 10, but the people that are going to borrow money as they see the world flowing down that lemming cliff are the same people that aren't going to pay anybody back because they haven't figured out how to corral and harness their resources, and they're just hemorrhaging resources. So I would actually, my first instinct would be to walk away because it's going to be more trouble and more hassle to get that than to focus on what you already have, like I might have a jumbo jet on the coast of California, but here I am on the East Coast, and the clock started, and now it's go time, and shit hit the fan. I'm not getting that jumbo jet back. That's somebody else's jumbo jet now. That's just going to be how it is, man. We got to be ready to walk away from a lot of shit that just isn't going to work out.
What about you, Darren?
Well, that's happened before, and I know in that situation, you just ain't going to see it. He's right. But they'll be back. Unfortunately, they're going to come back. And you just right there, right then say, you're on this list now, and you're not welcome. We don't need your kind. We don't need.
I like that.
You struggle.
I like it too.
That
and you
was
can
their
even
job
have
interview.
a physical list and show them. Yeah. That's it. It's going to happen, and it's happened to me already. So you just cut bait and run. Don't let them around you anymore.
If anything, you're pretty much like shortening the list of people who can ask for stuff, because if they already owed you something to begin with, obviously, ideally, you wouldn't ever go in that situation.
There's a couple people I've told them, you show up at my gate, I will shoot you in the face again. I don't need to see you anymore. You're dead to me.
I've got somebody like that I told a friend. He's like a brother to me. I told him flat out, if you show up with this person with you, I will shoot you as well as shooting him. That's how bad it was. But I think you guys hit it right on the head. And the Bug Out's comment about the job interview is a fantastic point. And it leads to something else, kind of ancillary to that, is before anything happens, it's perfectly fine to set up situations where people have to make moral decisions. And people call it being duplicitous or being sneaky, but you know what? You want to find out if somebody's like this or not. That's one of the great things about, you guys are going to that meet up in North Carolina, and we do our preparedness festival here in Kansas. You get to see people. The barter towns are a fantastic way to judge people's character. job
yeah,
interviews.
basically life is a job interview for this, because all of your little interactions, the way that people behave, the way that they like, I didn't really think I was much of a people watcher before, but I'm definitely a people watcher now, because I watch how they behave and they move and they speak. And for me, those are huge clues as to whether I want to work with somebody or not. Like,
Mm-hmm.
and nobody's perfect, so I'm not holding up like a high standard. I'm certainly freaking not perfect, but there is a entire thing, and especially when somebody goes through a stressful situation, that's when I really want to watch them, because how are you handling that,
Absolutely. And Simpler Time says, don't consider them loans, consider them gifts, and that way, if you never get paid back, there's no hard feelings. You just know at that point that that's somebody that you don't want to deal with.
Well, that applies to today,
Yeah.
right now, too. By the way, it's
Oh,
especially if they're friends. If you loan a friend something, you really have to be ready to eat it, or because it's gonna get stupid if you don't.
Yeah, 100%.
Okay, you guys ready for the next one? Who gets to go first this time? I think it's Bug Out's turn. Oh, you guys are gonna eat this one up like a bone. If you could change one thing about the government today, what would it be? How would this change benefit your country and benefit its people? Oh my God, we're probably going to get taken off the air with the answers to this one.
Oh man, I mean, we're doing so many things wrong right now. I have to pick one. Okay.
You choose one thing.
Wow. But I just have so many friends here. Like it's hard to pick just one. Like potato chips, but I would say right now, if you read the newspaper, okay, I would say that we are going to go back to sovereignty, and I would immediately stop with an outward military presence. I would bring it all in. I would put a big, huge old border wall around us, first of all, and I would stop getting involved in foreign affairs, no foreign entanglements, like George Washington said. That's the guideline that I would focus on first. I would start manufacturing our own stuff, and there's going to be stuff we have to trade for, obviously, but like if it can be made in-house at home, it's going to be made here. Our military is to protect our actual real estate, and that would just maybe hopefully make a ripple that we can fix some of the other crap too. That would be probably the biggest change that would need to be made.
So bring the military home and look inside, basically. Okay, Hax, what about you?
I'm still trying to figure out which one I would do.
I know, right? It's hard.
So many.
So many.
It is hard. But I agree with you with the manufacturing. We need to make more. I just can't believe in my 58 years I've seen a decline in what we make and having problems because we can't get parts or the parts that we use. I had a mechanical background. It just the part quality goes down. They don't build anything anymore, and it doesn't matter if it's a automobile or a freezer, or that turkey roaster. I did find out the problem on it, by the way, G.
Is it fixable?
But, oh yeah, I just haven't fixed it yet, but I know what happened to it.
Thank you.
I have a little add-on question for him after this, after everyone else answers it, by the way.
Okay.
I just thought of it.
Okay.
But yeah, I think if we can manufacture or figure out a way to get more production to where we can close our borders and actually worry about us for a while, I think that would fix a lot of problems. I know it would fix the job unemployment
Sure.
rate. So
What
I think
about
that's
you,
probably
Lauren?
where I would go.
So we've got turn inside, bring the military home, turn inside, bring manufacturing back. What would be your answer?
Mine.
Uh-huh.
Again, so many things. Both of them hit on really good points. I think it would be shocking and disturbing to a lot of people who have federal jobs, but like cut the Fed, like scrape
Right.
down the federal government to the bare freaking bones, get rid of the Department of Education, the Department of Agriculture, the USDA, the FDA, all of that stuff. Get rid of all of the Fed. And you know, it would definitely cause a lot of turmoil, because I do know that some of those do have like some decent programs. However, like if we were to cut that out and give all the power back to the states, I think we would see, you know, way less waste, fraud, and abuse and corporate power or anything, because you're decentralizing everything. They're centralizing all the power. And if we could do that, I think we could get back on the track of, you know, really actually being of the people, for the people, that kind of thing.
Okay. All right. So my answer would be, and there's a lot of people who are not going to like this answer. I would put us back on the gold standard.
That too.
That would cause massive austerity measures. It would curtail the federal government's ability to wantonly spend money, and it would cause great hardship and hate and discontent in this country. But on the backside of it, if we were able to navigate it and survive as a country, everything you guys talked about would be fixed.
So basically Ron Paul's platform.
Yeah, basically.
All of it. Everything that we said was Ron Paul.
Yeah, basically. Okay, Bug-Out, what was your follow-on question?
Oh, well, once he said that he had some engineering and manufacturing background, it immediately sparked in my head. So would you be willing to enter a contract with this country where we would manufacture everything for ourselves and we wouldn't have to go outside for anything, except technology-wise, we would have to go back to, like, let's call it 1975 or 1980?
Anything before 80. I think in the automotive industry, I think the quality of the vehicle went down right at the fuel injection change, depending on computers.
And it's the computers is what I'm talking about. Life
Because
without
the electronic
semiconductors.
side of it is where we failed. They don't build them like the military spec stuff, and it just fails, and it causes other failures.
And I really think that a life without semiconductors is something we could get used to if there was a payoff in the end, which would be, we don't rely on any other country. We don't have another country. Like, China is in all of our pockets. It owns all of our politicians. And it's like we could get rid of all that shit if we just went back in time, you know?
Yeah. And look at how their people live, though. They do live back in time. They don't get to enjoy all especially the farmland folks out there.
People actually had a higher standard of living, honestly.
Yeah.
I mean, you could, what was it? Was it somewhere in 1950s or 1960s, you could support a 3-children family, like, you know, wife, husband, 3 children on one salary. Try doing that today.
No, the 60s was when that, and it's funny, and man, y'all are gonna hate me for this, but you know, right when the women's liberation movement started, and I'm actually pro-feminist, don't get me wrong, you know, I'm pro-70s feminist anyway, but but when they started creating a 2-income household was when things really started hitting the toilet, you know.
I almost feel like it was by design.
It certainly was. It was economic warfare. You know, one of the test subjects for economic warfare was us. You know, they wanted to see if it worked, so they did it. You know, and then the subversion from Russia thrown into that, it was like, man, we got turned upside down all kinds of ways. The only good thing that came out of that was no wax floors and Tupperware. I mean, we can keep that, but let's throw all the other shit away.
So Rabbit Coyote says Rabbit Coyote says life without semiconductors in the medical field would put the average lifespan down quite a few notches, I think, though. Well, and I think life without semiconductors just across the board would cause problems. But the wild thing about it is that we don't have to have a life without semiconductors if we pull back from the world stage. We have the ability to manufacture all. We used to manufacture that stuff here. In fact, we still make all the brand new stuff comes out of America. You know, people say that we've lost the edge, but even today, with everything that's going on, most of the new patents in this world come out of American corporations because we've got a culture of research and development and all that stuff. We don't have to live without semiconductors. We just don't have the political will to make it happen.
Well, and also we have so if we were to pull all of our manufacturing, right, back to the US, the problem is that the cost, the wage thing would be an issue. Because I remember, God, it was back in the early 2000s in the Coast Guard, they would have a broken printer. They would fucking, excuse me, sorry. They would overnight
a pretty
printers.
Good. We're an hour and 15 minutes in, and that was the first F-bomb. I'm pretty.
I'm so sorry, and it was the chick that did it, man. All right, but we would send printers to Mexico overnight, get them fixed, and have them sent back, and that was cheaper than using the local guy. You know, so the problem is that everything would actually become more expensive. Like if you were to buy a pair of jeans, like back in the 50s or 60s or whatever, like they would be expensive now. Maybe they'd be higher quality, maybe, but they would be way more expensive. People have gotten used to cheap goods and cheap labor because we outsource it to cheap sources. And because of that, we've screwed ourselves.
But to your point, if it's better quality, it's going to last longer and we can focus on other things. Like
true.
In the 60s and 70s, guys could make, I got paid on flag hours, so the job takes a certain amount of time. Guys could make 100 to 120 hours in a work week, 5 days. And they were buying boats at the lake or lake houses, RVs. They had all these toys because back then lawyers and mechanics were the rich guys. And that kind of went away. And most of that bulk of the money they made was on maintenance. Just, grease joints and tire checks and change oil and, all the minimal garbage. We weren't taking parts off and throwing them away because they couldn't be fixed and turn into part swappers. You can teach a monkey to do that. And they'd actually charge for it, if we went back to that way of living. But a lot of stuff would last longer and we could focus on other things than, oh my God, how am I going to buy food or get tires on my vehicle?
You said parts monkey, and all I could think about was our meat slicer.
What happened with the meat slicer?
He spent about 30 minutes last night changing out a plastic gear that broke on the meat slicer. So,
plastic gear?
A plastic gear in a commercial meat slicer.
Could you super glue it back together if it broke?
It was melted.
We got these from where? Italy?
Italy. They had to come from Italy.
From Italy.
Because, I mean, at the risk of opening a side conversation that we want to avoid, but a plastic gear in something like a meat slicer or a ceiling fan or whatever, that is a perfect candidate for aluminum casting. Just something to think about.
Yep.
Or CNC milling. Absolutely. Okay, you guys ready for the next one? And I think Darren, you go first this time, I think, right? You guys,
yeah.
In a world post-collapse, supplies aren't replenished and eventually run out. When things calm down to the point where a local economy can start flourishing, what type of business or venture would you like to pursue in order to help rebuild society and take care of your needs? What's your dream job? What's your dream job after the collapse?
I'd fall back onto the dysfunctional gene that I grew up with, and that's repairing things. Mr. Fix It. It's a no-brainer. I can do it pretty easy. Yeah, that's what I'd fall back on. Because we could take the junk that's piled up and everybody threw away and actually do something with it.
Darren's got a T-shirt that literally says, "If Darren can't fix it, no one can." And he walks around my property looking at all the junk, going, "You need to save that so you can do this. You need to save that so you can do that." So yeah.
Oh, you're a hoarder's dream, huh?
Oh yeah. Man. Yeah, I'll tell you what though. He can fix anything, and he sees usefulness in stuff that everybody else sees as junk, and he makes it happen.
See, that's the guy you don't want to turn away at the gate, you know?
Mm-hmm.
That's what I was saying. They test the skills that I'm telling you I know.
Maybe you keep a piece of broken equipment out there and go, "Hey, fix this." And if they fix it, they get into the gate. What about you, Milkmaid? What would your dream job be during or after the apocalypse?
I'm gonna sit in a swing and on my porch and watch everybody else work. No, what I probably would do is food. I mean, we all know this. I'm the food person. So livestock, gardening, and honestly, I'd love teaching. But food preservation, all of that stuff, I think that's kind of my thing that I fit into. And I really would want to also teach with not healing, but medical and stuff like that. But I'm not really that good with all of that stuff. But food probably would be my thing. I know my place.
What about you, Bug Out?
Man, I don't know, to be honest.
Just so many talents to pick from.
Well, I mean, shit, I'm not really good at anything though, you know. Man, something cushy I could do well into my older years, maybe. How about oh man, maybe something artsy, you know? Probably go that route. That's something I could do even when I was blind. And when people said, "Is that good?" I'd look at them and go, "Oh, that's the best," you know? And they would just believe me, you know?
Well, and you know what? You make a good point. You know, after the collapse and the economy starting back up, you know, if people are secure enough where they're able to start a new economy, then they're going to want stuff. They're going to be looking beyond just survival stuff. So there might be that guy in the Indian tribe that made all the scrimshaw walrus tusk pieces. You know, maybe he's got a place in that new economy. So that's a perfectly viable answer. And there was a lot of stuff going on in the chat. I tried running through them. Yoda put up gardening and ranching for us, and that's probably the food production like that would be where we would go, because that's kind of where we're trying to head before it all happens. You know,
I think everybody's.
Go ahead.
Oh, I was just going to say I really enjoyed, because I was looking at chat when you asked that and people started throwing out their things. I think that's going to be the part about having a community, or at least, groups of people. I mean, because we're all going to end up being in a community. It doesn't have to be a pre-decided or anything. It's going to happen. People
and see, I'd
tribal.
be the guy in the community putting the flame job on the riding lawnmowers for the people taking, you know.
Mm-hmm. But everybody has something that they're bringing to the table, and it's odd sometimes when you consider it, but everybody does have something to offer, and you know what I mean.
Well, and everybody's
gonna have a place if they
there.
Can work
there was a point in time in my life when providing security was what I wanted to do. You know, so there was a time in my life that would have been my answer, but now I say it all the time. I'm too old and fat to be doing that, so I got to find something else that I'm better at.
That's where you get those young dumb guys.
That's right.
I liked all the comments about the sewing. I've got 8 sewing machines now, and I've got 1 to fix that's left. Everything else works now. And I picked them up for $1 a piece at a thrift store.
Wow.
So yeah, sewing is a big one, and that's another one of my side hacks that I can make money at.
Speaking of which, running a loom, a lot of people can sew, but how many people can make the fabric?
Yeah.
I was wondering about that too. should we be learning how to grow flax and that kind of thing?
Hemp.
Like, just something to keep in the back of your mind, and finding all the alternative, like hemp was really useful in so many ways as well. Not just, that's kind of why, isn't that kind of why they made MJ illegal? It was so versatile.
Yeah.
The oil industry and all of
I think
that, like for ropes
established
and everything.
The hemp thing, even as late as World War II, they forced farmers to grow hemp during the war.
Really?
Actually, every world war that we experienced, including the Revolution, they've had people growing hemp to make rope. So, like, it's not that it's off the table. Like
it was
when they need it, they suddenly make it okay. You know what I mean? But
isn't it funny? It's okay now.
the hemp after World War II, the people that made the chemical companies, basically with the polyester and the nylon, saw it as a threat to their business, and their pockets were deeper, and they managed to get it outlawed and stuck underneath that Schedule I thing.
Well, and same with like prohibition too.
Yeah.
Well, and that's where there's different kinds of rope, and man, actually, this, like your mooring lines and all that other kind of stuff. There's a certain kind of stretch. Sometimes you want stretch, and sometimes you don't. But a synthetic line is always going to have stretch to it. There are some ropes that you don't want to have any stretch at all, and that's where your hemp stuff comes in. If I remember right, I could be wrong here, and I'm sure somebody's going to body slam me in the chat for saying that. But
I think the hemp is the one that stretches, though.
Yeah, maybe.
That's what they used to use on the old sailing ships.
But when they tighten those mooring lines when they're pulling the boats into the port, and you see the steam coming off of them because they shocked so fast that it boils the water as it's tightening, and you're like, wow, if my finger was in there, I would have a hot dog for a hand,
Yeah.
Yoda has a really good point with the spinning wheel and the loom.
She just wanted to put that in there because
too.
She got that stuff. We actually have one spinning wheel. We've got a carder, an electric carder, a hand carder, and then she came home one time being a real estate agent. She had one of her people gave her a $3,000 loom, which is sitting in our outbuilding right now.
Whoa, really?
Yeah, and it sat in our living room at the old house, and it was something that she does know how to spin wool. We've made wool out of the wool from our animals. It's a long, laborious project or process.
I worked for I called her the goat lady, but I used to milk her goats and make goats milk cheese and stuff like that to sell at the farmer's market. But she had sheep and she sheared them, and she made, carding it and spinning it and all of that stuff. And I remember watching as a kid. I wasn't really into it, but that's a skill that it's like a lot of the other old skills that people have had over the years that are dying, and we really, need to bring them back.
So what you're saying is, you're with your solar generator, the one device, that one tablet that has all the audiobooks on it, you only play it for 4 or 5 hours a day, and you play it in the room with all the looms in it, and you're like, if you're going to listen to this audiobook, you need to be spinning, or you're not listening,
Hey, I like it. It's motivation, right?
That's a fantastic idea. Okay, we got time for a couple more. I want to keep this less than 2 hours.
Okay.
We got time for a couple more questions, so we'll go. Milkmaid, you get to go first this time. Do you think physical ability or knowledge will be more valuable to your group in a survival scenario? Who would you rather team up with? A 70-year-old female who knows how to live off the grid but needs almost every physical assistance, or a 20-year-old man who only offers the group a strong back?
Oh, you know what I'm going to choose.
I'm
going to choose the knowledgeable one. I'll be the labor. But it really depends too, because sometimes you just need a strong back. Like if you're the one with more knowledge, then you need the strong back. But if you're the one lacking the knowledge, you're going to need the one that has the knowledge. So, I mean, it really is kind of situational there, but
Which one's harder to find?
the 70-year-old woman.
Yeah.
Yep. Well, and
That's why
I'm going to jump line, Darren. I'm going to jump the line. I think Mopey's right.
Fine. Yeah.
This is a very situational question, because what if it's before a collapse and you're building your group and you know that you need the knowledge? What if it's after the collapse and you need the bodies?
Yep.
You know,
But perfection of process though. It like now I'm jumping you. Now the shoe's on the other foot. Sorry, but
go ahead.
But what if you have a way, like for example, like with me, and this is from personal experience. Like I've had things fall on my lap, and I made a process to how I knew how to do something, you know, and then someone else comes by that has let's call it a peer or greater, or maybe a little less, but somebody that got their experience from somewhere else. The first thing I do is I just rip their brain apart and I say, how do you do this? How do you do this? How do you do this? You know, the resource of another perspective that's educated in what you're doing. And there's going to be a myriad of things, you know, like there's a lot of things that maybe we know a lot about, and there's a lot of things we know nothing about. Like, man, let me tell you, a guy that can fix anything, like that, my door is always open to somebody that can fix anything, because I'm pretty good at breaking shit, you know, and, but like, you know, but there's some things that I know how to do, but I'll open and modify my plan. Like I could take that 70-year-old lady that knows how to do a whole lot of stuff, you know, and turn this property into a food forest, let's say, you know, and meanwhile, it's like, you know, like I can focus now on the strong backs because I got somebody else doing that thinking for me. I can put this other hat on and keep it on longer, you know, and try to figure some shit out over there, you know. Yeah. I mean, I still would even almost lean towards they're going to know something you don't know, and you got to figure out what that is, you know, and you got to get there.
What about you, Darren?
Yeah, knowledge every time, because you can always find youngsters that have abilities, but are they willing to learn? But if I can pick a brain of somebody that's been around the block a day or two, I'm always willing to learn something new. And now I'm getting to the point where I have to teach that to somebody. And go ahead.
Oh no, keep going. I'm sorry, I didn't mean to interrupt you.
No, I can find folks that work and have a good strength, but are they teachable? And I'd rather be on the side of getting that knowledge and then relaying it to the people that you do find that have the physical ability. Because once they're gone, that knowledge is gone. And
right, but you know, even if they're unteachable,
that interim guy that can relay that information to somebody that can use it for the next 30 years.
Yeah.
But let's not discourage the market of the unteachable guy that knows how to swing a hatchet and how to dig a shovel. I mean, you're always going to need that guy too, you know.
Yep.
But yeah, it's a harder earned process to get the skills, you know. And someone that already has that, you just saved yourself a lifetime of experience and it's time you don't have, you know.
Yeah.
Okay, so I'm gonna play devil's advocate here, and I left Potpourri's comment up there because she mentioned the Native American tribes. Yes, they cherish their elders' knowledge and wisdom, but the nomadic tribes of the plains, you know, they were all about survival, and there were times when if the breadwinner or the person that took care of the older person was killed and nobody else could adopt her, well, him or her, you know, the elder, they would send them out to die. They would
Yeah.
literally, and they would send them out so that they were not a burden on the thing. And I say that because, you know, we're talking about all these survival scenarios. You know, there could be a point in time where that is the case in somebody's community, where you just don't have the resources to take care of that person that needs every physical thing taken care of for them, no matter how much wisdom they have.
Are you
Well, they're
talking about President Burden?
Come on, man.
First time I've heard that one.
I just thought of it
think
right now.
Yeah.
Go on, Milkmaid.
I was gonna say, I think if it ever came to that point, I wouldn't mind going out, you know, in style into the woods, you know. But what
Well,
the point I was gonna bring up earlier with the young backs is, I have been guilty recently, actually, of really discounting the younger generations and thinking that they
Mhm.
were, you know, completely useless. They're not going to be helpful in any way whatsoever, and they're dumb, and you know, all of that stuff. And then I had to kind of step back for a second and in conversations with others and realize, okay, but these are the people that we're going to have to work with, and some of these people are going to pull it together. Like, they're going to hit reality and they're going to pull their act together. Like, when you watch those war movies where everybody goes into boot camp and, you know, they're a bunch of, you know, wrecks, but when they come out after going through the fire, you find some real gems there. And I think I need to be, and maybe all of us need to be careful not to discount those younger generations, because they will soak it up eventually. I mean, need is going to push that if they have that certain spark, though. I mean, some of them are just going to be lazy, but you know, some of them are going to pull it together, and I look forward to seeing that. I really do.
Yeah.
And I want
Oh, yeah.
to,
How about,
like,
how about telling them about Ty there, G?
Oh, Ty. I did an interview with him at Back to the Land. Ty is 13 years old.
Yeah,
He was 12.
13.
He was
Yep.
12.
He
He's more of a
started when he
home.
was 9.
Yeah, he started when he was 9. He's more of a homesteader than most homesteaders I know.
Yeah.
So your
I
point to
love
the younger
kids like
generation.
that.
Oh,
Yeah, if you get a chance,
you get
if you
you
get a
get to
chance,
meet
go back.
youngsters.
Yep.
That
Go back and watch that interview with him, because he's a pretty
Yeah.
sharp kid. He's got his own YouTube channel too.
Yeah.
Yoda, can you pull up Ty's their channel and put it up there for everybody so they can go see
But
him?
I didn't.
But
Did I miss
the
this?
kid's 12 years old and he had 400
yeah,
400 meat.
his parents are still
That's
working.
pretty cool.
They got the property, but he wanted a homestead.
Yeah.
And
Yep.
he
That's
did it.
awesome.
Yeah,
And
he
he's
did
doing
it.
yeah.
God, I love kids like that.
Yeah.
Holy crap.
And he gets help from his parents, but he's doing he's doing all the work.
Yeah, the parents are cool. I mean, that encourage your kids like that, and yeah, he's running with it.
You know, and Milkmaid brings up a good point. You know, as we get older, cul-de-sacs right. I am getting to that age, and I'm getting that age where get off my lawn pops into my head way more often than it should, right? But you bring up a good point. There's a whole generation of young men and women that went out and waged war, and that's not something that weak people do. You know, there's a whole generation of people that are the a little bit older than my kids right now that have proven themselves to be quite capable of doing the hard stuff that needs to be done and learning how to do things. So we don't want to we don't want to be openly dismissing all these people. And just for the record, I'm not advocating. My answer would honestly be go with the knowledge, you know, because once that person's gone, the knowledge is gone. So you need to debrief that person constantly, and just, you know, that person and somebody with a pen and paper just writing post-apocalyptic Foxfire books. Seriously.
It's like that Great
Which we should all
Depression.
get together and write one, by the way. Sorry to cut you off.
Oh no, you're right. I was talking about that one lady,
Yeah,
the Great
food
Depression
lady.
cooking. Yeah.
I know. I
Clara.
know you were going to say that.
I don't know.
Who is it?
Oh,
I can't remember the name of the channel, but
it's great though. It's an old lady in her kitchen, and she's dead now, but she was obviously still alive while she was recording the videos, because that would be weird. But she's just like, yeah, in the Great Depression, we didn't have a lot of money, so this is like noodles, hot dogs, and like, like asparagus soup or something. Like, just, she made the weirdest stuff, but it was like stuff that poor people could make, and like she made it all fancy.
Well,
Nice.
yeah, and like she had like dandelion salad, and she would show how you
Yeah.
would like pick the dandelions and clean them and that kind of thing, and that's what they did to survive. I mean, just I remember picking after I started homesteading, I really actually started paying attention to my grandparents, because my grandfather, he raised rabbits like it was just past depression, but they were really poor, and he raised rabbits in the city for their food. And then my grandmother, she was on a farm, and they didn't even have electricity or running water for the longest time. And so, when I started talking to her about milking my cow and clabbered milk, and she was like, "Oh yeah, we had clabbered milk all the time." And I was like, "What?" And I started picking her brain, and I was like, "Wow, there's so much knowledge here that they just decided wasn't important, later on, because everybody had electricity and refrigeration and all of this stuff." um I hate that I didn't pick their brains more.
Yeah, right. I didn't even know what to pick.
Right, yeah, exactly.
So Yoda posted Ty's YouTube channel in the comments, and then
Oh, good.
Tiger Depression Cooking with Clara is the channel you guys are thinking about. And there's
Such a sweet little lady. I love her.
Lucky found the thing. Okay, we got time for one more card. All right.
That's a feel good channel, man. It really is.
Yeah. And so this card came up legitimately. It was the top on the list, so it's not something that I picked to be the last card, but I think it's a perfect last question. And it reads: is the world too far gone that nothing but a complete collapse will bring forth real change? Why? What would that change be? Darren, why don't you go ahead and start us out?
It's too far gone.
Why do you think it's too far gone, and a complete collapse? What change would come out of it?
Well, it's called a reset, and you're going to go back to a time where skills are going to matter, knowledge is going to matter, courtesy and basic social skills are going to come back. And to go through that reset, it's like a car engine running. It's red line's 7,000. You're running at 12,000 RPM. When it comes apart, there's a big catastrophe. You ain't fixing it anymore. But on the backside of it, everything starts new. It's dependable. It's running smoothly. You got no noises or belly aches, basically. And I think that's what we're gonna see. If something don't change.
Okay,
So, like going back to 1980, pretty much, right?
Yeah.
Probably further back than that.
I predict we'll see a changeover pretty much like right after the war in the late 40s, early 50s. Where we were making all kinds of technology advances. Everybody had a job. They were manufacturing everything, and times were good right after the war. The stupid crap that everybody thinks that matters will go away. And
well, Peter Zahan, that professional sort of like forecaster of events, that he knows a whole lot about a whole bunch of stuff. He said we were going to go back to 1900, quote, but in a good way, end quote. I don't know if it's that far back though. I don't know if I agree with him on that, and I have no data or no clout or pedigree to even dare disagree with this guy. But I do. I don't think we're going to go that far back. But I think
I,
you're right though. I think we are going to
I
go
think
back
if
to something.
we lose our grid, it will take us back that far, because you lose refrigeration, there's all kinds of stuff that I'm still learning, the off-grid, no power needed food preservation, and it's hard. It really is.
Yeah, you do have a point there. We're so bloated on stuff, that like it really, man. I hope those Georgia Guidestones aren't right, but man, every time I talk about this kind of stuff, the numbers do kind of seem to add up sometimes.
What about you, Milkmaid?
I'm a little torn on that. I do think that there's so many aspects that it's hard for me to predict, but I do feel like we are snowballing basically, and we're on a crash course. And you know how they had the plague, the Black Death, all of that stuff, and knowledge was lost. I have a feeling that we're actually going to do that, but it could be a hybrid. It could be a hybrid of high technology and complete austerity. Is that a word? Austere environments where we're having to really truly struggle. And when I look at that, like, no matter what the trajectory is, I keep thinking, okay, the goal is to survive what's coming, right? And not fall prey to the shackles, but also to pass on knowledge and skills and wisdom to the next generation, because really that's, I mean, our little lives are like a puff of air, you know?
Yeah.
So if we can do something for that, then, I mean, that's my whole goal, Like, I like living just as much as the next person, but I think we really do need to think more in those terms.
Yeah.
So I'm going to address the going backwards in time thing first. We're gonna have a reset back some point, and where that is, I don't know where that's going to be. I will say this, that if it doesn't stop at the 1950s time frame, it's going to barrel right past the 1900s. It's going to take us back into the mid 19th century. We will be back to an agrarian society, and the reason is because of the change that needs to take place is it's going to strip off everything that's unnecessary in our lives. And as a society and as a culture, and I'm speaking specifically of America now, a total collapse will not affect the nomadic tribe in Africa the way it does the people living down the street from us. Okay. In America, we do not have the societal knowledge to be able to put brakes on a collapse like that, a total collapse. So if it doesn't happen, if it doesn't happen at a certain point, it's going to go back until it stops on its own. That's going to be way past 1900.
Yeah, in a way, it's going to hit the most advanced societies the worst.
Absolutely. But I think that the real change and the positive thing that comes out of it is, like you guys were saying, is somebody made the comment about participation trophies. It's going to strip all that away. We're not going to have to worry about that stuff. The whole woke culture and the stuff that drives a wedge between people in this country. A lot of that stuff is going to be gone, and the real differences are going to come forward, and we'll be able to work on them. We'll know what the differences are. The difference isn't going to be, well, they've got a better shoe than I've got, or whatever. So that's where that is.
Has anybody thought about the fact, okay, so our country was founded on these principles, right? They were founded on ideas from history, like lessons learned. When we move forward, we need to remember the lessons that we've learned to pass on, so that we're not hitting the same problem, couple hundred years from now, like whether it's the end of the world and end times and all that stuff, we have to kind of think of that too and pass those things on too, because that's really going to matter, I think.
Yeah. Well, and I think you bring up a good point. We've still got time. We've still got time to start learning these skills, and everything that we talked about tonight, we can address at some level. We may not be able to completely address it with our groups and everything, but Tag and I did that entire series on the 28 Principles of Liberty. We need to be teaching people these principles. We need to start building our communities, and what that looks like. That's one thing that Tag brought back from that next step is community in this sense looks different all across the country. He said he was amazed at how the wide spectrum of stuff that people considered community. So we've got time. The sun is still shining. There's a storm cloud on the horizon, but we've still got time to start addressing these things and trying to make it so that when that bandage gets pulled off, it doesn't hurt as bad. You know what I mean?
Or mitigating losses.
Exactly.
Because let's face it, we really are up against something that, as much as I want to fight, and I will fight, there are things that are going to happen whether we fight or not, And so at this point, I'm mitigating losses and thinking long term versus just short term, just me, my survival, that kind of thing. You know what I mean?
Okay, Darren,
But
correct me if I'm wrong on this, because you and I are about the same age. We grew up during the Cold War, and personally, the existential threat to our well-being right now is as higher than I remember it being as a child doing duck and cover drills in school. So, you're right, Milkmaid. Mitigating losses is going to be a huge thing. Okay.
Do you think the threat ever really went away, though?
Mm-mm.
It never went away, but it was not as bad. It seriously, we came within minutes during an incident in the early 80s of a literal nuclear war happening.
Well, we had the Cuban Missile Crisis too. My dad was on the Enterprise in the Navy at that time, and that was really close because Cuba was building nuclear launch capability, and that's just right down from Florida. So
I remember like when the wall went down, and old what's his name had the light bulb suit on and sang all the songs and all that stuff, but everybody was like, yeah, that's over. And I was just looking around at people and I was like, what do you mean it's over? Like, like it's not over, and I never really believed that it was over. And now it's not over. And it's like a weird vindication of my paranoia maybe, but like, like those powers might have been split, but they didn't necessarily go away. And like, man, they did a lot of things right in that time that they were in the shadows, the debate with Romney and Obama, Obama laughed and said 1985 called they want their foreign policy back when Romney said that our biggest threat was Russia. And I didn't necessarily disagree with them, but like the way that they ridiculed Romney, and he's a piece of crap, don't get me wrong, but and he's also involved in a spick and span operation over there in Ukraine, but he wasn't lying there, look at Sarah Palin, she was like, as a governor of Alaska, I have special clearance dealing with Russia, and everybody was like, who cares? And like, we never took Russia seriously after the collapse. And I bet they're taking Russia seriously today, is all I can say. It's all you hear about.
One of the defining moments in my life, this is one of those points when I had an epiphany. I was on board the USS Ranger on sea duty, and we were working in the Persian Gulf, and the CIS destroyer General Vinogradov was working with our battle group. And I was, growing up, I went through ROTC during the Cold War, and so they were the enemy. The Russians were the enemy. And I was leaning against the railing, looking at the ship, and this old gunny who was over from the USS Blue Ridge comes over, and he's standing next to me, and he's smoking a cigarette. And I still remember it clear as the day, as today. I looked at him. I said, "Gunny, I never would have thought that they would be our allies and our friends." And he literally goes like this. He goes, blew the smoke out, and goes, "Marine, make no mistake about it. They never will be our friends."
Mm-hmm.
And that was when I realized, as an adult, that things are not always as they seem, and old adversaries never really change. So yeah, I think you're right. You're right. The as a society, we've underestimated them. Hopefully there's some people in proper places that have thought about this in the intervening years, and we haven't completely destroyed our capabilities. But that's a time for another show. Listen, guys, we're running up on 2 hours. I really appreciate y'all coming up on the panel. I think this has been really good, and this is the type of stuff that we want to do. If anybody, I'm going to throw this out there. If anybody wants to donate to the cause of Super Chat, any money that comes on a Super Chat at the end of this thing in the next couple of minutes will go directly towards buying more of these decks of conflicted cards. And if we get enough money, I'll buy extra ones, and we will do a giveaway the next conflicted. People that show up in chat and up on the panel, we'll have a drawing and see if we can't get some. That's only if you guys don't want a Super Chat, don't worry about it. It's just something I wanted to throw out there at the end. Darren, you got anything going on? You got like a minute, you can tell us.
Right there.
Got chicks going on.
Yep.
Oh wow.
What about you,
Aw.
Milkmaid? You got anything going on that you want people to know about?
Oh, just life. I've not been making videos or anything recently. I need to, but
Well, you're gonna
Same here, and I need to.
You're gonna be making a personal appearance someplace here soon, aren't you?
yeah, I'm going to the meetup, the rendezvous, that Ghost is putting together, and I'm looking forward to that. I'm looking forward to meeting people and kind of getting to know them and stuff like that.
So
Should be fun.
anybody that's in the Mid-Atlantic states or can get there. I know that there's at least one person in chat that's going a lot further than the Mid-Atlantic states. You guys get on Ghost channel, and they talk about it. Get the details. Hanging Rock, North Carolina. It's the same weekend as Self-Reliance Festival, so we will not be able to make the trip out there.
I know.
But you guys need to go there, and you need to support them and go have a good time. What about you, Bug Out? You got anything you want people to know about?
Not really, man. I mean, I keep trying to think of interesting things to do, and it just never pops up. And then I do interesting shit, like I fixed a bunch of fence line. I keep getting trees falling on my fences and stuff, and I'm like, I should film this because I do it so much. It's going to be a thing that people are going to need to know how to do if they ever get around to that, But I just. We'll see, man. I'm a more like a penny stock than I am. I'm not a PNG,
Penny stock.
Okay, and like I said, we are going to Self-Reliance Festival the 25th and 26th of this month. So if you guys can go there, I've got a link that I'll put down there. You can order your tickets through. If you do go, stop by and see us. I don't know of any. I know very few people. Jason from Kentucky Sustainable is going to be there, and Jake. Aren't we what?
Aren't you doing a presentation on food preservation or something like that?
Yes, we are. We are doing a presentation. Hopefully it goes well. Y'all
should video it.
They are. Yeah, they are. They are videoing it, and it will be up free for a little while, and then they're going to put it behind a paywall. So nice. I'm gonna talk to Nicole Sauce and see if we can get it and have it available on our channel. If it's free, I'm gonna download it. Just know that, and I'll worry about the whole legality of who owns the property at that point. afterwards. But yeah, so that's where, and then we got videos coming out. I got a film update on the bathroom, all that stuff. What's going on?
No.
Somebody just started shaving.
Oh, Lord.
He's got to take his drugs.
That's a reminder.
Oh, Self-Reliance Festival Lucky Dame is in Camden, Tennessee at the SOE compound. It's a good festival. At all I've been to, Darren and I went last June and had a really good time. Met people that had become good friends, honestly. In real life, not just virtually.
Two old crows will probably be there too.
And we will. They're supposed to bring soap so we can sell it in our vendor tent.
Yep.
So you guys can pick up some Sexy Beast, which is named after me. Okay, guys. Thanks for showing up. Thanks for showing up. And we got to get out of here. We are ending right now.